Hello everyone. My name is Paul Stevens, and welcome to this Rising Stars Roundtable webinar sponsored by Price Labs and Minute today. You've just been watching a preview video to our annual Shorties Awards, and you'll hear more about that very soon, about our 2024 event and opening up the nominations. So stay tuned for that. I am the editor of shorttermrentals.com here at International Hospitality Media, and I'm the host for today's session. And before we begin, let's introduce our first webinar series sponsor, Price Labs.
Price Labs, a leader in revenue management, is unveiling its breakthrough release. Discover the new hyperlocal pulse dynamic pricing algorithm. By tapping into hyperlocal market trends, it's setting new standards in accurate pricing and response to market changes. With our smart presets, customize our algorithm easily and get personalized guidance. With our desktop app, speed up your workflows and manage multiple listings smoothly from your computers. Experience our award-winning product created by a world-class data science team. With our global reach, anyone, anywhere can use Price Labs. Discover more game-changing updates crafted to propel your short-term rentals to success. Visit pricelabs.co/breakthrough today.
So a big thank you to Price Labs for sponsoring our series and this session. And here is our second series sponsor. This is property monitoring company Minute.
Hi there, we're Minute. We make home sharing work for everyone, hosts, guests, and communities alike. We've developed the world's first indoor and outdoor sensor built specifically for hospitality, and the only one that integrates with Airbnb. The Minute sensor monitors noise, occupancy, motion, and temperature. It's camera-free, so it protects your guest privacy. We can help you prevent parties and noise complaints, enhance guest experience, and protect your rental properties, just like a co-host would. When Minute detects noise, it notifies the host. It can also contact your guests via Airbnb messages, SMS, or an automated phone call. Similarly, you'll be the first to know when there's a risk of crowd, the AC malfunctions, or someone tries to enter your rental between bookings. And the best part is, you can install Minute yourself in minutes. That's why we're trusted by hosts and hospitality professionals in more than 100 countries. Find out more about how Minute can help you host happy at minute.com.
And a big thank you to our second series sponsor, Minute. Thank you very much for the support. So in terms of webinar guidelines for today, all of the details are going to be posted in the chat by my colleagues Joe and Danny. So please, if you do have any questions, post them there yourself throughout today's webinar, lasting around an hour with around 45 minutes of discussion and some audience questions towards the end. A recording will also be sent around to everyone within 48 hours of the session. So let's introduce our speaker lineup for today, and I will go with Jeff first. Please just introduce yourself briefly, please.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Iloulian. I am the co-founder and CEO of HostGPO, which is a buying group for hosts. So we are a GPO, which means group purchasing organization. So we're a one-stop shop for folks to get furniture, linens, amenities, supplies, etc. for their vacation rentals.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Now we've got two people here from Nectar. So I'll get Brittany, if you can just introduce yourself first, and then Derrick, you can follow on as well.
Hey everybody, I'm Brittany and I'm one of the co-founders of Nectar. So I started out in the real estate world in about 2016, built out our smaller unit portfolio, which is really anything 50 units or less, so single family and small multifamily. And then in addition, I built out our entire short-term rental portfolio, which literally started in one apartment in one of the apartment complexes that we owned, and I ended up growing that to 125 units. And then in 2021, we sold a majority of our real estate portfolio and then built Nectar. And here at Nectar, we provide working capital to experienced real estate entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Brittany, and Derrick, please.
Yeah. So, hey guys, I'm the other co-founder of Nectar. My background is also in finance. I was a bond trader at Goldman Sachs, and I would also built a real estate portfolio that ended up owning, operating, asset managing, developing over $450 million in assets all throughout the country. Within that, we had a short-term rental portfolio that I can't take much credit for, but I do anyway. So we had 25 short-term rentals. And now with Nectar, as Brittany said, we give experienced operators with low leverage, cash flowing assets, liquidity, or working capital. And we focus on the short-term rental space, as well as, other spaces as well, but we have a soft spot in our heart for the short-term rental space.
So great to meet you both from Nectar. Next, we've got Sjeel, slightly closer to home in the Netherlands. So please introduce yourself, Sjeel.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Sjeel Koster. I'm the CEO and co-founder of HolidayHero, a guest experience platform for short-term rentals, but also hotels. And what we're trying to do with our platform is to help hosts and hotels to exceed guest expectations beyond their expectations.
Thank you, Sjeel. And last but by no means least, we've got Samela.
Yes. Thank you so much for hosting us all. I am Samela, and I am the founder and CEO of Block. And Block helps the everyday person start their own short-term rental business by allowing them to rent turnkey properties from us so that they can go out and fulfill their aspirations to becoming a rentrepreneur. And we are currently located in Miami.
Fantastic. Thank you to each of you for joining us today. It's a slightly different session. In fact, we've got a packed panel here, but you're all doing completely different things within the short-term rental industry, and we wanted to highlight your businesses and get your opinions and insights today. So we are looking forward to hearing more about that. We've got a little bit of context as well to add to today's discussion. We covered Jet's HostGPO's $6 million fundraise in May, which was its first external capital. And we also covered Derrick and Brittany's Nectar's $25 million credit facility last September. And we've also provided coverage of Sjeel's HolidayHero and its pre-seed round back in October last year, as well as Samela's own pre-seed round last December with Block. So looking forward to delving more into these businesses. So yeah, let's dive straight into the discussion. I'm going to come to you first, Jeff, because I think it's a really exciting time for yourself in the procurement space, and we're starting to see more companies pop up now within the space and raise funding. We mentioned that $6 billion fundraise. So how exactly, could you just tell us a little bit more about HostGPO, but specifically really why you think you're doing something different, contributing to the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think to really understand HostGPO, I think it's helpful to just chat a little bit about kind of how it started. And, like Brittany, I have a lot of short-term rental background and experience. So I was operating a portfolio over the last 9 years of 150 properties, both, luxury homes, but also apartment buildings, doing a combination of traditional property management, lease arbitrage work, and some kind of investment work. So going through that process and going through those years, procurement and just buying stuff is really challenging. And it was a problem that I had in my own business. And I think like most industries, things tend to evolve and great solutions tend to pop up when somebody experiences the problem themselves. And so I was at a conference and talking to some other folks at that conference back in, I don't know, maybe 2018. And we were all kind of standing around, and somebody just kind of turned at one point and said, hey, by the way, where are you getting your mattress? And I remember this moment just being like, why is everybody whispering? Like, where are you getting your mattress? Where are you getting your mattress? You know, why is this kind of a secret? And, you know, part of what I think makes HostGPO great and unique is that it really aims to solve problems of short-term rental hosts specifically. So there are buying groups in all these other industries, right? Hotels have buying groups, other hospitality providers have buying groups, healthcare industry, pharmaceutical industry, restaurants, you name it. There are GPOs, group purchasing organizations for many other industries, but there really wasn't one that met the specific needs of the short-term rental space. And so what are those needs? I mean, that's everything from the ability to buy commercial products. So things like hospitality grade linens or contract grade furniture, or, you know, other items that might be sold, for example, mattresses that are sold not to the general public, but that are sold to hospitality companies. The ability to buy those types of goods in smaller quantities, being able to ship those to multiple addresses. And, you know, currently we're in the US and Canada right now, but we've really, between the two, been able to assemble a really great conglomeration of suppliers and vendors, really partners that we work with, everything from your hospitality grade kind of linen company that doesn't even have a retail website, all the way to, you know, your West Elms and Crate and Barrels and Pottery Barns and Article Furnitures, and then even supply companies. So, you know, we work with amenity companies, but we also work with Ace Hardware, which is like a great, unique partner for our space that is super. In the US specifically, if you are a property manager, right, your team is constantly running into the hardware store to grab supplies, right? So we've tried to put together a curated list of vendors and negotiate the guaranteed best pricing. So, you know, that takes a lot of the guesswork out, both in terms of, am I getting the best deal, but also in terms of who should I be buying from? And then we've really uniquely tailored what the products are to the needs of our industry, both in terms of the terms themselves, like what are you buying at and how is it shipped, but also the actual products themselves. So that's kind of how we approached it from the beginning, the problem it was aiming to solve, and kind of where we got to now. And I think that's really what makes HostGPO really special.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. And we're going to touch a little bit more on your priorities as we are with our fellow panelists shortly, so we can get into some of those issues and problems that you're solving. But if I turn to Brittany next with Nectar, I think what you're doing, it's all about providing this alternative cash flow financing to real estate entrepreneurs as well, and that's being represented elsewhere on our panel too today. But I think you describe yourself as sort of the only company in the short-term rental space to be doing exactly what you're doing. So could you just sort of explain to us what exactly those issues that you're trying to solve with Nectar?
Yeah. Similar to Jeff, like this is an issue that we face every single day as we were syndicating and putting deals together. Your equity and your liquidity is literally trapped in your properties. If you want to go out and do like the next bigger deal, it's really difficult for real estate investors because you have all of your money tied up in this other deal that you're trying to renovate, rehab, get on the market. And so for us, it was really important for us to provide a solution, or to really find a solution for real estate investors that would allow them to get quick access to capital without having to give up ownership in their existing portfolio or sell their existing portfolio. Oftentimes for Derrick and I, we would have to like get investors in order to raise the capital in order to do our next deal, or to sell a property just so we would have enough cash to do the next bigger deal. So really that's what we're focused on here at Nectar, is helping real estate investors unlock their trapped liquidity. And what's really unique about the way that we do it is that we allow investors to leverage their existing cash flow. So we're going to look at your existing cash flowing properties that are already part of your portfolio. And based on the performance of those properties, we're going to give you an advance. The advance can be anywhere from $100,000 up to $2 million. And the terms are typically over 1 to 5 years. and you pay us back typically in equal monthly increments. So there's typically not a big balloon payment at the end. So you know exactly how much you're paying us back every single month. And so, yeah, I mean, we are really here to be sort of a partner to our clients as they're trying to continue to grow and build their business.
Excellent. And we'll again come back to the priorities and sort of manifestos for the industry moving forward very shortly. But I'll move on to Sjeel as well. Likewise as well. And Sjeel, I really like what you're doing now with HolidayHero, and you're starting to see this growth now with the guest experience software platform. So we hear more and more companies talking about how they're looking to enhance the guest experience in lots of different ways. But with HolidayHero, what exactly are you doing that you think is unique in the industry?
I think first and foremost, what we're doing is we're trying to make it as easy accessible for a short-term rental to start their own guest app. You know, creating a guest app can take a lot of time, and you don't have a lot of time as a short-term rental owner. So you want to make sure that you spend your time wisely. And I think it starts with just a simple onboarding with 5 simple steps where you just add your Airbnb or TripAdvisor link. And then within 5 minutes, you can already see what your guest app will look like. And after that, you might tweak it a little bit, but I think that is really different from what is happening now in the market. Is like, how short can we make the time to host with creating a guest app within HolidayHero? I have a great passion for doing things fast, and I think that this is a way to help people to do things fast and enjoy the benefits of starting a guest app.
And because it's short-term rentals and hotels as well, did it start off with as a brainchild for short-term rentals, or like always looking then to move into hotels after? Yeah,
we actually started with the short-term rentals because my other co-founders, they own properties on Ibiza, and that's where they run into the issues of, okay, we have these high demanding guests, and especially also the high demanding guests during the show last week, they also presented about that. The higher demanding guests and the less the reviews are going to get. So the expectations are so high, and how are we going to meet those expectations? And they were like, okay, we need to do the check-in, but we don't know what time they arrive at the property. And then we're waiting there for a couple of hours, but we actually need to check in at the other property at the island. You know, how are we going to do all of that at the same time? And I think that was when the idea for HolidayHero was born. To see how we can, you know, optimize all of those operations on one side, but also streamline the guest experience on the other side. And I think most of the guests want to stay in control, right? I think the property management system is the core on the back office, but the guest experience technology is a whole different ballgame, and that's what we're trying to solve for them.
Excellent. Thank you, Sjeel, for those insights. Samela, we'll come to you next as well. And what you're doing with Block, and we had to clarify what exactly the pronunciation of Block was before, but I think we met for the first time last year, and it was when you were launching this turnkey investment marketplace. And for those of us perhaps who in the audience who aren't familiar with Block, what exactly are the issues that you're looking to address really within the industry?
Yeah, so Block is my second startup. My first startup was Sabea, and Sabea was exactly trying to solve the same exact problem for that HolidayHero is currently solving, right? Empowering smaller operators with technology because they don't have the bandwidth, the budget to go and build it themselves. But in the midst of onboarding these short-term rental hosts, we would hear often that they are looking to expand their business. They're wanting to expand their business, but they don't have the cash flow, right? The same thing with Nectar to do this. And so the light bulbs start going off in my head like, well, rental arbitrage is a thing. And right, so you hear all of the courses, I can show you how to make millions without owning any property. But really, they're selling you more like a playbook or more like guidelines. But what Block does is essentially hold your hand through the experience. And so we do everything from sourcing amazing deals to fully staging them, and then helping them think about the type of customers they're wanting to host. Because my background is hospitality, so I'm bringing in that hospitality element to say, hey, if you want to host travel nurses, this is the type of home decor you should be thinking about, as opposed to if you want to host families, right? And so we truly hold their hand. But the beautiful thing that Block has given me the opportunity to do is get the everyday person the opportunity to start real estate, right? Because we know real estate is such a massive market, but it also is how most people create their own form of wealth. So we're right at that gateway to say, hey, you don't have to jump out the window to go and actually purchase a property, but let us help you rent it, understand what it looks like, to your budget. How much does it cost? We show them the expenses and we take the journey with them, because if they're not successful, Block is not successful, right? We don't want to have to evict them. So we're making sure we're sourcing amazing deals for them. They understand what it looks like to run their books. They understand what it looks like from guest experience. And then as we grow, they can grow with us to other cities, other areas. But it's getting that everyday person to understand that there's room for them at the table as it relates to wealth creation. And it just so happens to have hospitality on the sauce.
Fantastic, Samela. And it's clear from all of your businesses that you're all trying to address and solve unique challenges within the sector that many of us are experiencing. So I want to, we've prepared a little bit before by getting you all to sort of prepare a couple of priorities or manifestos really for how you're planning to sort of improve the industry. So I'll go back to Jeff first of all with HostGPO, and if you had sort of control over the industry, what would you be your sort of priorities or manifestos if you were setting out policies for change?
For the industry, I mean, look, I think the way HostGPO thinks about its manifesto for the industry is really there's two or three main things. One is it goes really actually along with what Sjeel and Samela were saying. We're really focused on elevating the industry as a whole, right? We think that guest experience is super important. We think that as the industry starts to professionalize, and that doesn't necessarily mean be run by professional companies, right? What that really means is become more of a professional hosting experience, really providing more professional, better guest experiences, right? As that happens, HostGPO's manifesto is how can we help elevate both the quality of products that are in the home and also the design, the spaces, the actual physical good that you're providing, the stay. How can we help elevate the industry overall? Consistency, more quality products like that overall will be a rising tide that can help the entire industry and help people trust vacation rentals more. So one, elevating the industry. Two, I would say, continuing to build a sense of community. And what that really means, like any GPO, is putting a bunch of people under one umbrella together, right? The bigger HostGPO gets and has gotten, the better the deals have become, the more we're learning about what people want. We are over 300,000 properties that have signed up for HostGPO between the US and Canada already. It's pretty amazing the scale at which we're operating, and the ability to put both kind of property management companies and owner operators and lease arbitrage folks and rentrepreneurs all under one umbrella to kind of collectively get what we need for our properties is another thing that I think is really, really important. And then maybe like the third, I don't know if you asked for 3 manifestos, but really feeling 3 today. So, the third one also I feel like is what Samela was saying in a lot of ways too, and honestly also Brittany and Derrick. Like I think that helping folks with their businesses and easing how hard it is to run a vacation rental, either one or a company, whether if we can help to make it easier to streamline your buying and save you money in doing that and help your business succeed, whether you're a large business or a small business, that's something that we're really passionate about. So those are kind of the 3 things that HostGPO really believes in and kind of why we're doing what we're doing.
Thank you, Jeff. And that leads me on nicely actually to return to Nectar. I'll bring in Derrick really. And Jeff makes a really big emphasis there on elevating the entire short-term rental hospitality industry. So what would be your plan for sort of setting that out?
Yeah, yeah, thanks. And I think we have a similar view on the short-term rental industry, which is that it started out as a really scrappy, small thing not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And as people are professionalizing and building their portfolio, there are people that are going to emerge that are going to be the people who dominate the industry in the future. They're going to be like it's going to be fragmented, but they're going to be big players that build portfolios of short-term rentals. And we see ourselves as helping to give them the tools that they need to go and dominate and not be capital constrained. In the real estate space, there are three things you really need. It's the three problems you solve. You need to solve the supply chain of labor, because you have to put the stuff in the properties, you have to build the properties, you have to operate the property. That's a supply chain issue. Then materials, which is something that Jeff is directly he's like a supply chain of material company. And then capital. It's a super capital intensive business. As Samel was mentioning earlier, it's like super capital intensive, and that capital is hard to come by. It's not very flexible. It's built. It's the industry. The real estate capital markets was built generations ago. We provide the flexibility of capital that you need if you're going to build a portfolio in this environment, and not be capital constrained, and be able to keep your ownership so you can do the things that make sense for your properties, as opposed to being forced by your capital stack to skimp on the investments that needs to be made, or to sell before it makes sense to sell. This is an economies of scale business where you can operate better if you have a bigger portfolio. In the traditional capital markets, those investors, they have an IRR that says that you're selling in 3 or 4 years, and 3 or 4 years come up, you might have just hit your stride. Your portfolio might just be running, and now you have to start selling. And that's this position we're found ourselves in. We want to solve that problem, and that will create an environment where the top operators who are prudent, building strong cash flowing portfolios, where you're actually operating well, and in that strong operations turn to strong cash flows. We're empowering those people to build strong portfolios that can then provide great elevated guest experiences.
Thank you, Derrick. And talking of capital, I mean, Sjeel, you just last October you raised this 500K pre-seed round as well. So it ties in quite nicely, with what you're trying to build with HolidayHero. I guess, what do you see as having now raised that cash? What do you see as being the next priorities for not only maybe your next stage of growth, but also the growth of the industry as a whole?
For our stage of growth, we actually this week we launched the web app version. So we have now mobile app and web app. And next to that, the most important thing is to integrate with the most important PMS systems. So there's that seamless data integration for all of the short-term rentals. And I think then in the market, I think complete SaaS adaptation from the guest experience platform, that would be, of course, the ultimate goal, where we would give the tools that the hotels like the Marriott, etc., have had for years and have been using for years for their target audiences, that we can now apply that to the short-term rental market and help them professionalize even further, with a very quick time to host and an easy way of onboarding and just creating your guest app within minutes. I think that is really something that we strive for. Yeah,
excellent. And do you see hotels being the benchmark now that you want to build short-term rentals to that level?
Well, I think that's the benchmark, because they have been doing that for years, and I think it's very interesting because they are now competing, right? But I think the tools haven't been there, And you see also in most of the reports that I'm reading right now that short-term rentals are really going into that professionalization. And the way to do that is also to have the right tech stack. And we as a company, we also need to accommodate that. So we need to integrate with the PMS systems and the right tools to make that possible for them. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Sjeel. Samela, you've got the sort of the benefit and the expertise of having had two startups within the space and also raising capital. I saw you nodding along to some of our other panelists there as well. So based on your experience now in the industry, what would be your priorities or your manifesto for really growing and elevating the industry?
Because we are a business that's built on community and caring for our community, my team and I are always going to the drawing board to see other ways that we can make a larger impact, and not necessarily for specifically for the industry, more so for the everyday person to get into the industry, right? And so while there's like a lot of noise around what's happening with short-term rental in terms of, the legislation, the law, my team and I are really focused on, is there a way that we can help our customers while also joining forces with cities in advance, right? And so we're thinking about that because it's important for us to ensure that that widespan ban that happened in New York doesn't take our industry down, because I do believe that we're looking at something that should be taken serious. And so we are taking it serious and exploring how we can make a greater impact around that topic. But as we see our customers, we're beginning to collect data to understand what are some of the concerns into entering into the market, one, and then how can we use that data to help them kind of double their portfolio, and maybe they go from one unit and they're just trying to figure it out, and then they look up in 6 months and they have another 2 units, right? So we're looking at how, while we can expand, we want to take our original customers who believed in us early along that journey with us, while also building our brand awareness around why everybody should have a chance at building wealth in real estate, even if it's through hospitality, tourism, right? And so that's where we stand at.
And you're also sort of working on education within the industry as well. Is that a big part of what you're doing now with Block, basically?
Yes. So we focus, what we understand is we have to meet our customers where they are and not try to get them to meet us where we are. It's my second company. My background is hospitality. I pre-open hotels, right? So there's no way that I can think that they would know what I know. And so the best way to do that, we started hosting some masterminds, right? So they want to be a customer, but we did a 4-week course. And then we found out some people was like, I'm not ready yet. Could you make it another 2 weeks, right? And so we did a 6-week course. And it was essentially saying, this is where we were setting expectations and we were building confidence along the way so that they can understand, first, you're not in this by yourself. Second, your success and my success is predicated on your success. And then helping them understand that you're not just starting a Airbnb for the sake of saying you have one, you're starting a hospitality company. And so we need to start thinking about those things so that once the dust comes and the noise comes, you are one of the hosts that will withstand because your standards were high. You chose the right things, right? And so we're just trying to make sure whatever we put out in the short-term rental industry, it's not trash.
Thank you, Samela, and thank you everyone for the questions so far as well come in. We will leave a bit of time towards the end to answer some of those as well. Now, I guess as entrepreneurs and founders and CEOs of your companies, you're all, more glass half full people than glass half empty. So I want to, now that we've covered the priorities within the industry, I want to touch a bit on some of the challenges that we've all encountered within our businesses, but also the opportunities, and hopefully touch a bit more on on opportunities than challenges. But I'll revert back to Jeff here for the first one. And with the procurement marketplace as it is, what do you firstly see as the key challenges now that need to be addressed there?
Yeah, I think as far as entrepreneurs go, I wouldn't know if I'd call myself the most glass half full kind of guy.
Okay.
I'm a little bit more of a realist. I think I used to be a lawyer, so I'm heavily skeptical of just everything. But that being said, I think as far as the procurement side goes, there are issues. It's still new. What we're doing is still very new, and I think we're still learning. I think that the industry is still learning, and I think that the benefit other industries have is one, scale, and even the short-term rental industry as a whole is an entire industry, is a fraction of what the healthcare industry is, right? Or a fraction of a bunch of other larger industries. So I think that scale is something that is a challenge for just procurement in general. And then I think the second thing is just standardization. I think that people are still learning and understanding the value of standardizing, and also the challenges that come with that. And so one of the one very specific example there is you're talking about shifting habits to standardizing by ordering stuff well in advance, right? This industry is built from entrepreneurs, and I was one of those, or at least the newer version of this industry, the kind of new entrants into the space that are very focused on how do I get a new property set up if I lease it today or buy it today and I'm renting it tomorrow, then my cash flow looks like, right? So understanding the fact that in general, you need to build in time, you need to order things in advance, you need to start holding inventory as opposed to running to the nearest store and buying whatever you need to buy to put into the property, right? Those are things that really affect your bottom line. And so kind of understanding the importance of standardization, how that works in affecting processes on a larger scale, that's part of the kind of the professionalization thing that I was talking about earlier. I think that is a big challenge. And I think the industry is evolving into it, but it's not fully there yet. And the folks who are adopting early are doing quite well. And I think the rest of the industry will hopefully catch up soon.
I think honestly, it's a really fascinating business that you're building with HostGPO. So I'm really glad that we've managed to get you on this session, Jeff, as well. And we've actually got a session coming up. I can't remember when it is in the new year, but we're going to be looking at the sort of blurring of the lines between travel, hospitality, and retail, or retail and commerce. And when you talk about raising and elevating the standards within the industry, how do you see this sort of blurring start to develop, and how are you positioned to kind of be in that change?
And you're just talking specifically about the blurring between which two lines? The hotel lines?
As we start to see short-term rentals in particular start to embrace like the procurement and the real retail commerce element there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're starting to see. I mean, I think the real that I don't know if this is exactly what you're going for, but the really interesting blurring is going to start happening when you start talking about the hotel industry and where that blurring is happening with the short-term rental space. Like that line, I think, is getting very fascinating. You have hotels that are starting to, move into smaller and smaller operations and starting to expand into the space. And you have operators that are starting to buy motels and convert them into boutique hotels, right? And then you have kind of the folks in betweens, like the Saunders of the world, that have been leasing full apartment buildings and buying full apartment buildings for years, that are running them essentially like, remote hotels. And so, I think that the interesting blurring of the lines there, I'm not sure if this is where you were going, but is, well, what's the difference? And how can somebody who's smaller succeed, and how can a larger company succeed? What are they focusing on, and what tools do they have that the other one doesn't have? And so I think that specifically when you're looking at somebody like a Marriott of the world or a Hyatt, right? Those companies have very, very detailed procurement like processes in place, and they have standards, and they understand the way that they look at stuff is just so different than how any of us would ever look at it. I mean, they don't look at a piece of furniture and say, oh, well, this costs this much. They look at every piece of furniture and they say, okay, well, this costs this much. It's going to last this long. So the cost per stay is this much. And if is this much nicer, it's going to drive the return this much because it's designed well, et cetera. I mean, they're looking at things at that level of granularity that I think fully escapes this industry right now. I think maybe some of the largest operators are really getting into it, but it's, that blurring of how to approach problems like that, I think is going to require the smaller operators to start thinking like the bigger operators and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And that convergence, I mean, we're seeing even Airbnb starting to add boutique hotels to its offering in New York City, trying to sort of circumvent these regulations. And I'm imagining regulations are going to come up later in this discussion as well. I wonder with Brittany and Nectar, really, what are maybe the key challenges you believe that the industry still has to face full on, Brittany?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges in the industry are really related to like regulatory and legal issues. So a lot of cities have implemented or are considering regulations that are going to ultimately restrict like how you operate your short-term rental business. And that's anything from zoning laws to licensing requirements to occupancy limitations. And really figuring out how to navigate this legal landscape, it can be really hard. And like my suggestion is to really try to get out there and partner with your actual local lawmakers. So like, and your neighbors, like talking to them, understanding like what are your concerns, figuring out how you can address them, how you can partner with them, so that ultimately you are able to advocate for short-term rental regulations that actually make sense. I think another challenge that the industry is facing is just rising cost. It's becoming more expensive to acquire property, interest rates are rising, the cost of like, there's inflation, so maintenance is more expensive, rehabs are more expensive. And then like, additionally, you have like oversupply, right? So like as a short-term rental operator, you're having to fight harder in order to get somebody to actually book your property. So I think that is like a place where Nectar can sort of really step in and provide you some working capital so you can do things to your property that will separate or like differentiate it. I don't know, like adding a pool or like a hot tub or like amenities that you've seen that your guests really care about. So then that way, when people are looking to book, they're going to book your homes versus others. So yeah, I mean, those are like two of the biggest challenges that I see. I think that, we as a collective industry have to work together in order to combat them. We're definitely stronger together. So talking to like other hosts in your area, I think is important, and kind of, approaching it as how can we work together in order to combat this one common goal.
Thank you, Brittany. And Derrick, I'll probably give you a more gentle question, but if you're taking on a more sort of glass half full perspective, unlike what Jeff was saying before, but what do you see as the opportunities within the industry that you can really solve?
So I'm gonna say, when like I'm a lender, so by like definition, we have to be glass half empty, but also an entrepreneur. So by definition, we have to. So like I don't know, it's pretty much
a mixture of both.
Here's the reality: the way that we use space has changed. Period. It's different. We don't use space the way that we did in the 1980s. The way our households are different. The way we travel is different. However, the average age of the built environment is, the average building was built in the 1980s. This is the average place that our current built environment. So what does that mean? That means that like the future is going to look different from the past, and short-term rentals are going to be a part of that future, period. And that is going to be bigger in the future than it was in the past and that it is in the present. I think that's just a secular trend, because just the way we're using space has changed. It's never going back. For the office, the way, I mean, and this happens all the time. We used to, Sears Roebuck used to be a huge company that everybody, that could never fall. But the way that the economy, the way that we as a society works changed, and the way that we shop changed. And now I don't know if anybody here has been to Sears in the past decade. I don't know. And this is going to be the same way. Like, I'm not saying that like hotels are going to go away. I don't believe that they will, but short-term rentals will be a bigger part of the world. And the people who are building companies, that are building companies to last for the long term, and that are building companies that are profitable, that like make money, that solving a problem in this space, are going to grow with the industry. And we're going to look back 30 years and they're going to have, and they're going to say, wow, I've been here from the beginning of the industry in its infancy. And they're going to be the people who have built institutions that are running the industry, and that are the just like the institutions that are running other industries that started small and are big, like self-storage, or even hotels, mom and pop thing, or apartments. These are things that were not institutionalized, but now they are. And that just, it just is. There might be some pain in between. Things don't go up and to the right. There will be pain, and that pain will come soon, I believe. But industry.
Thank you, Derrick, and really, really honest insights there. I'll go back to Sjeel as well, because Sjeel, your whole business with HolidayHero is about generating direct bookings as well. So I'm wondering what your perspective is on the key maybe challenges and opportunities that you're going to encounter with your business.
Yeah, I think Brittany was already talking a little bit how you differentiate with maybe amenities, and then on the big OTA platforms showing that you have a jacuzzi versus what others are offering. But I think the even bigger challenge is how do you become less dependent on the OTAs and spend that amount of money, which is around like 70% or something, while you can get direct bookings and pay nothing, and I think guest experience platforms really focus on helping you to get more direct bookings and building a loyal group of customers where they can already book directly for next year, for example. So we really give them the tools to be able to book directly and put a link to their website so they can do that in that way. I think another challenge is that do short-term rental owners adapt the technology quickly enough to be competitive enough? Do they understand that they need to move in that direction? And with that comes a lot of education. So there's also our role in that, right? I think airlines have been doing it great for years. As a consumer, you are in control completely from the moment that you check in, which you can do on a mobile phone. You don't need to stand in lines, all of these things. But when you get to a short-term rental, sometimes you need to wait, you need to check in your passport and all of these things. We can digitize so much still. There's such a long path that we all have to take. So I think that if we take a little bit more the example of the airlines, I think we will all do a little bit better. Excellent.
So learning from airlines, the key message there that she was giving. Samela, I'm wondering what your take on this, challenges, opportunities you're facing with Block.
So I think that of course, we all know that there is several challenges, and I wholeheartedly agree with Derrick. The problem will come, and it's on its way. So I think first we got to understand what the problem is, and I see it in a layered approach, because I do believe affordable travel should be a thing, right? Like, regardless if we talk about it, yes, you are in business, but one thing that hotels have always gotten right is understanding that cleaning is part of doing business, right? And so when you start adding all of these charges and like making affordable travel not affordable anymore, then now that goes against the traveler. But then from a togetherness part, right? Like hotels have gotten a lot of things right, but they've gotten a lot of things wrong in terms of being inclusive, in terms of understanding their type of guest and who should be welcome and who shouldn't be welcome, right? And I've seen it firsthand at some of the hotels. You'll see one guest treated in a suit, amazing. And then someone else comes in a tank top, and then you think that you can treat them less than. And that has started to show up in some of the short-term rental experiences. We hear it from the people all the time. And so it's like accountability, like who is being accountable. Yes, we're in the business of making money, but we're serving people at the same time, right? And so who's keeping count of what the people need and like protecting their needs while also making sure your bottom line is being met and exceeded, right? So affordable travel, and then of course what Brittany said in terms of like legislation and having these cities, while you're banning short-term rental because you're saying affordable housing, you forgot about that mom and pop bodega that's now going to be affected because they don't have that foot traffic anymore, right? And so then you forget about that auntie who was using the money from her 4 short-term rentals to send her nieces and nephews to school, right? And so the city think that they're doing it because they want to regulate things, but the truth is it's really just starting a bigger circle because those people are still stuck with those mortgages. Those people are still stuck with those apartments. And then now you're pushing me back into a hole because I thought I was getting out. I thought I was going to be able to afford the cost of living, but now you just took the only way that I was making money from and you took it away from me. And so I think it needs to be better conversations and more people need to be at the table that's not just thinking about one side. They're thinking about the effect and the circle of what these regulations are happening. And I believe that there's amicable ways that we can solve them because if the goal is to have a thriving economy, everybody should have an opportunity to thrive in that economy. And so that's my take.
I think that's a very good, almost a mic drop moment there, Samela. Thank you. Thank you for that. I want to get on to some audience questions. I have got one more question. I'll get around to asking hopefully before we finish up. But as we've got a couple of questions, I want to go to those first. Nikki Mate, we know Nikki, and she's asking Jeff if you include sustainable procurement in your offering.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that sustainability is super important. I think that it's only going to become more important. I think that everybody in Europe understands that more in the short-term rental space because of a lot of the work and changes that have started to go into effect over there. But yes, in general, we very much focus on sustainability. I think that the question is really uniquely framed in terms of sustainable procurement because I think that the first question that comes up when you're talking about sustainability is how are you defining sustainability? And when you start talking about the procurement piece of it itself, that becomes its own full webinar on, if the wood is sustainably sourced, does that mean it's actually a sustainable option if they're shipping it around the world 3 times, right? So there's a lot of kind of deeper questions that go into, what is sustainable. But to answer specifically, absolutely, we really focus on having sustainable options in our portfolio of vendors that we offer partnerships with, and that's everything from amenities that are focused on, even if it is travel size amenities, if that's where you're going, making sure that their bottles are biodegradable or they're made from recycled plastics or bamboo, that the actual ingredients themselves are chemical free and paraben free, etc. So being able to provide affordable, sustainable options in both amenities, and then when you start talking about things like linens, what do sustainable linens look like? Well, 2 things. One, you want to be buying hospitality grade linens that can actually go through enough washes that you're not going to be essentially using disposable linens that you have to throw away every time. But 2, when you're talking about the procurement itself, we partner with one of the only companies that offers a 100% BCI certification on their cotton, which means that it's ethically and sustainably sourced from the raw materials itself all the way through production. And not to say every single line that they have is like that, but they do have the ability to do that. And we try to highlight and focus on whether, you know, you're talking about the furniture itself, whether you're talking about the amenities, the supplies. We partner with a company called Public Goods, which actually makes really, really nice, paper goods that are sustainable as well. So we do focus on and have a whole separate part of our website and a filter where you can source sustainable products. And I would love to do an entire webinar on sustainability. But you know, here are some of my very quick favorite sustainable facts, just because I want to squeeze it in because I think it's super important. You know, there was a Verbo study that said something like 59% of travelers have a willingness to spend more on sustainable travel. And that's 64% of those of millennials are choosing sustainability. And you know, similar studies that have come out from Booking, from Expedia, that really talk about the fact that, you know, not only do people want to stay in sustainable units, but there's another one that said 7 out of 10 travelers would actively not stay in a unit that they thought was not sustainable. So there are regulations coming, there are filters coming. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple years down the road, you're going to be able to filter by sustainable units. And there's certifications that are being created. You know, Sustanica, there's a bunch of other companies that are getting into space. So don't even get me started on sustainability. It's super important. It's going to become more important in the space. But yes, the very long-winded answer is we do have a lot of sustainable products as well.
I think Nikki is happy with your answer, so glad that you answered that. I know Deborah is asking how much does sustainability enter into the parameters of each of your work. So if you want to, our speakers want to respond to that question, I guess they can do that in the chat, or Deborah, you can also reach out to our speakers separately. I can probably already feel the glare from some of my team in the background about finishing shortly. So I'll get in one more question from the audience before we finish. And it's a question for Derrick or Brittany. And it's from Jessica saying, for Nectar, if I have several properties with multiple different entities, can I leverage cash flow from one entity and infuse that capital to another entity that may not be performing as well? And how can I use that to acquire a new property or acquisition of a portfolio? Whoever it is out of you two that would like to answer that, I'll give you the final word.
I'll answer. Yeah, ultimately, we are structured very similar to a cash out refi. So yes, you can leverage the good properties and use the cash however you want. You can finish a project that's over budget. You can use it for a down payment for a new property. You can use it to buy to get a whirlpool in the backyard or buy a boat. You had somebody buy a boat. We've had people buy other property management companies. So we don't limit you on what you do with the cash. It's your cash. You know, you're leveraging your own cash flow.
Excellent. Thank you, Derrick. So I want to pay a big tribute to all of our contributors today, to Samela, to Sjeel, to Brittany, to Derrick, and to Jeff for your fantastic insights. Now, we really wanted to give our rising stars today a platform to showcase their businesses and their opinions on the sector, and also why we need to be hearing more views of rising and emerging people within our industry. So we hope we've managed to achieve that today. And that was going to be my final question, but we'll probably give you all the chance just to send something over, and we can probably include that in our follow-up information afterwards. So thank you to all of you for participating today. Just got a couple of quick slides to run through before we finish. So we're back on Tuesday, the 21st of November for our next short-term rentals webinar in 2 weeks. That's entitled Building a Short-Term Rental Brand or Empire. So very relevant to the discussion today. Hope you can join us again then, and the sign-up link is in the chat now. For opportunities to work with us, please do contact my colleagues Piers and Jordan, whose details are on the screen now. I'm going to keep the session open for just another 2 minutes if you want to jot down any of the details in the chat, and there has been quite a lot today. Big thank you, of course, to our sponsors, Price Labs and Minute. Thank you again to all of our excellent speakers, and thank you, of course, for listening today. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.